a lot of the conversations I'm having with folks that, are now the CIOs for these organizations or the SVPs of technology is they talk about how they've had their time at Seat and it was great help for them. And one of the things that I'm actually bringing up to people now is encouraging them to let the people who are below them in the organization have that opportunity as well to receive that mentorship, receive those opportunities to network with folks and really kind of give them a space for not only their own career progression, but from the perspective of learning what other folks are doing and being able to have that conversation with them one-on-one that way.
Very happy to welcome back Josh Barney. He's the CEO for Seat. And the reason I'm talking to him means Seat is on its way and it's coming up soon, June 28th to July 1 in Nashville. Josh, welcome back to the podcast.
Yeah, great to be back, Sean. Thank you.
Well, this is year 3 of Seat, in brackets, Josh's version. Since you took over Seat from Christine, it was founded in 2007, but the last 3 years you've been running it. What have you learned going from an attendee and part of the community to running Seat?
Yeah, honestly, I would say the biggest lessons learned from my perspective on this one is, first of all, my background was in network engineering. So getting my head wrapped around event management became the first big step in this one. And then as we've had Salt Lake and now Las Vegas, the lessons that I pulled out of that one around the reality of how important the community is to Seat has become one of the focal points for how we're going about doing Nashville. And that, again, was specifically that, where we differentiate ourselves in a lot of aspects is that we've got such a fantastic community of folks. And that's where I fell in love with Seat, was from that perspective of the amount of people who want to be involved to help make the industry better. And so from a content perspective and all these other things, we've got folks who want to jump in and help out along the way. And that's what has really been the big piece for Nashville, is the amount of folks that are now kind of involved in the content, specifically from the steering committee side of it.
So, yeah, you said there, Nashville in 2025. There's always a plethora of options on where Seat could be. It's been across the United States in multiple forms and even once way back when in London. Why Nashville?
It started out as a personal thing that I wanted to go to Nashville, just from my perspective of seeing cities that are having their moments in time. It was why Vegas was one that I wanted to go to. Nashville was kind of that as well, but I really wanted to make sure that we were doing what the community wanted. So at the end of the Las Vegas event, we went out and put a survey out and asked people. We had 20 cities that were kind of there for them to rank, and Nashville was by far the leader from what the survey said from the people attending it. So there was an alignment there where selfishly I wanted it to go there because I think Nashville's a fantastic city anyway, but it also became very apparent that the community wanted to go to Nashville as well. And it is that city that's having its moment in time as well. There's a huge kind of a thing that's happening there between sports and entertainment. So it really does make a great kind of marriage to have Seat go there. And actually some of the things that we'll be incorporating into the event bring in the music industry, which really leans into that sports and entertainment side of this for Seat.
Well, that's the thing. I was going to say, you were already alliterated it twice, but for those who don't know, SEAT is an acronym for Sports, Entertainment, Alliance and Technology. And Nashville is a really good blend of having lots of great sports and technology piece, but also being the country music capital and that entertainment side of the business, because there's always a lot to learn from a sports side from that entertainment side. So Nashville gives you that nice blend.
Yeah, absolutely. That and to your point on that as well, that became one of those things that the moment we started to really interact, and here is actually one of the real beneficial things of having people in the community want to help out. So in the sunsetting hours of Seat in Las Vegas, I had Steve Conley come up to me. We were just outside of the lobby in Resorts World, and brought up to me, he was like, one of the things that Christine did really well with Seat was she got the local city involved. So the teams and venues as a part of the planning of the event. And so that was something intentional that I went in and did as well, and immediately reached out to all of the venues and teams that were in Nashville and went out to the Grand Ole Opry, got involved with the Country Music Hall of Fame, all of these groups that have a presence there, and started to kind of from that perspective of trying to build with their support versus just Josh walking into town and trying to pull off an event. And that was one of the real helpful pieces as well, was that advice that Steve gave me there in Resorts World.
And then the other part of the community that is vital, that Alliance in Technology, is the different technology partners that help us succeed. And that that's definitely something that you need both to run Seat and to make it a vibrant, because we're always looking for those solutions. One sponsor in particular came to you pretty quickly once you said, hey, Nashville is where we want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. The moment we kind of put it out there that we were going to Nashville, JMA Wireless had their hand up in the air saying that they wanted to be a part of it. And that was actually really encouraging as well, from knowing that we're kind of bringing this back from COVID, to have folks that want to be involved that way. So JMA came right out of the gate with their hands up. Fernando's obviously been a huge supporter, as well as Diane and Bruce there. And then immediately after that, we all of a sudden have all these other sponsors that are throwing their hand up in the air. With American Tower was one that came out quite quickly as well. And Charles is obviously a huge advocate for us, and Michelle there. So, and Jessica Turner is another one. So having these folks immediately want to be in a town where some of them are doing business there as well, which helps them kind of show off what they've been able to do in these venues as well. So having folks immediately that knew kind of why I was going to that town and wanted it to be a part of it that way was huge. And JMA is obviously, they were hugely helpful for us in Las Vegas, and coming again into Nashville, been massive there as well.
Absolutely. And then a big part of, when you do get the community together, and one thing I will say, because a lot of the time the conversation I have it, and it is about meeting up and catching up with people you previously have connected with at Seat, and it becomes like a family reunion. But the thing is, what I also want to stress is new people arrive every year, and it's very welcoming. It's not, hey, you've never been, you're not part of the reunion. There's always new people, and especially over the last 3 years, there's been people that have turned up to Seat for the first time and have been welcomed in open arms. And part of that, I guess, that equation, and to get that to work, is to get these events where you get the community connected. You've had a day of sessions, you've learned a lot, but then getting together with the events, that's a big part of Seat. Can you sort of take us through what we have planned to beginning with on the Sunday with the welcome reception?
Yeah. As you said, the family reunion on that Sunday night, the 29th, will be at Bridgestone Arena, and American Tower, who I already brought up, will be there with us. They are the ones who've got such a great relationship with them that helped facilitate that, to help us get into the building and be a part of that and help build that relationship that way. And one of the things that is special about the welcome reception is that most folks are getting together for the first time every year. So that's where it really gets that nickname of the family reunion, is we have a chance to just be in space together, catch up, find out how each other's families are doing. It is one of the special moments of Seat where there's nothing really to do other than just be there and interact with other people. And I really appreciated that piece of it in our first year back in Salt Lake, where we had the registration booth for people to pick up their tickets, and that it turned into a chance for me to just kind of walk the line for a while and chat with folks. So being at Nashville, at the Bridgestone Arena, and having American Tower kind of help us get in there, we're actually quite excited for this. Bridgestone Arena is obviously one of the most famous, not only from just the acts that they bring through, but they have a reputation as well of being one of the best venues in North America. So having folks like David Kells, and we've got Leif, who's with the Predators, who's on one of our steering committees, having these folks come in and host us there in that space is actually a really cool piece, just because what Bridgestone actually is for the community in Nashville as well.
And as someone who occasionally jumps up and grabs the mic, because I have a tendency to do that, but at the welcome reception, it is normally I just say go, and people will turn up, and sometimes Seat is a really great conference to turn up with two of your colleagues. Someone that works in the technology space will go through the tracks, but someone in the BI and some in the digital. And you do find those little triplets are all in their little groups and maybe connecting with other people. But that first session, that first event is a really good one to go and meet another trio of in another team, potentially in another sport, because it really can set up your Seat to find a few familiar faces that you'll meet in a session the next day, those kind of things. So it is one to meet colleagues that are in similar roles, and also start looking. Come to Seat with a problem. There'll be someone there to solve it. So that's the Sunday night. So you get into Nashville either Saturday or Sunday and enjoy some hospitality in Nashville. But the Sunday night sort of sets things up. And then on the Monday night, again, we're going to another venue in Geodis Park with our friends at Cisco.
Yeah, honestly, that's actually a fantastic one as well, specifically from the standpoint that in the DNA of Seat are these venue tours. And so one of the things we wanted to make sure we were doing is having that capability to get in and see some of the newer facilities that we might not have been able to do before. Cisco is a partner with them from their technology immediately made sense for us to be able to do that. And Brian Bedford's obviously a huge proponent for SEAT and what we can offer the community in kind of access and connections that way. So going to Geodis actually is an exciting one. It's a couple days before our event. They'll actually be hosting a match from the FIFA Club World Cup that they'll have some games there. So it's a world-class facility that way, in that it hosts some of the big events that you'd experience in football. And having Cisco walk in with us as well and really turn this into an entertainment night where we have a chance to have a little bit of fun while we're networking as well is one of the exciting things, where we've got a shuttle that will be taking people to and from the hotel, so that we've got people that'll be able to be in motion. We've got all that sorted out this year and make it so it's an easier place to do that. And so we'll start the night off with a venue tour and end up with a little bit of entertainment and kind of social networking in there as well. And then after that, breaking out into the town, getting out to Broadway, whatever that looks like, from bouncing between the honky tonks. It's going to be a great time in Nashville that way.
Absolutely, and then the good thing is, I guess one of the learnings and lessons from last year is that there's no RSVPs. It's everyone attends the 3 events, so there's no confusion or not knowing where people are going. So the good thing is, we will be look at Nashville, and there will be a bunch of sports executives on the prowl for those couple of days. So that Monday night will be good, and then to close things up, you really brought a little bit of, not a little bit, a lot of Nashville to the closing night event at the Country Music Hall of Fame.
Yeah, so that night is actually going to be a really special night. So it's going to be hosted by a charity that my wife and I started this past year, and it's specifically in an effort to help bring visibility into the need for us to make our public venues more accessible. And we have some fantastic partners that have come along with us on that one. The Country Music Association has actually come in, and they are partnered with us on that event. We have Amp Think, Uniguest, and Peerless AV have all come in to support that event, to be a part of that, to help make that night possible. And one of the cool pieces about Nashville, when we bring up the music industry, is the singer-songwriter culture that exists there. And we found a woman named Lindsay Lawler, who that's what her world is. She's also a Sirius XM radio host. She's got 1 million plus people that tune in to listen to her daily. And that's one of the cool pieces, is that she's got all of her friends that are the hit songwriters, that are the songs that we all know from many years past and even present ones. And so she's bringing in her best buds, who are the hit songwriters, to come in and perform for us and give us a little bit of the behind the scenes of why they were inspired to write those things and kind of what led to that. So we've got multiple hours of them being able to do those presentations to us. And then we also have, a run of the museum as well. So everybody's going to be able to actually move throughout the museum and be able to experience all of that and see kind of where all of those pieces of culture, from where country music started to where it is now, and how it's all branched out and how everything ties together. So it really was kind of the way to culminate the Nashville event by bringing something that is true and authentic to Nashville itself.
Absolutely, and it is going to be something you don't want to miss. So don't do the thing of, I've got to leave the conference and get home on a Tuesday night, because you will have massive FOMO if you're sitting at the airport terminal and you start finding out what the great night is. So make sure that booking is for Wednesday, and have a great night on that Tuesday night. So they're the extracurricular activities, the networking, the one that helps form those bonds, that really strengthens the SEAT community, but it is also anchored on knowledge sharing, solving problems, and the content. And so that's across the 4 tracks. And for those who don't know, and if you've listened to podcasts, I've been a long attendee of SEAT, and it did start from a place of technology and all their CTOs, and then expanded to having multiple tracks. We've now got 4 tracks. I just wanted to sort of go through each of the tracks with you, Josh, on what they've been working on, how they're being put together, and what people can expect from those tracks. First of all, you've got the venue tech and security. Who are the people, one, building the content for that, and also who are the people who should be attending those sessions?
Yeah, well, the venue tech and security track is actually the track that was what interested me the most when I was on the team side. My role was specific to kind of the technology inside of the venue. So some of the things that you'll learn about in there are going to be centered around the facility, around the infrastructure that you would have in there, whether it be hardwire, Wi-Fi, the DAS system, cybersecurity, data center type of content. So the folks that this really kind of centers around are your facilities people, your IT people, and those that might be involved in a little bit of F&B that way.
Absolutely. And the steering committee, I guess, behind that, they're the people who are rolling out the tech, rolling out the changes, whether it be a completely new build or retrofit builds. They're in that world every single day.
Yeah. And that's actually one of the cool pieces about this as well is, again, when we go out and reach out to these folks to get them involved from that perspective, there are so many of these folks that come straight from these roles that are hugely helpful in this. So we've got David Jones from AEG. We've got David Payne from University of Oklahoma. We've got Win-Win from the Vancouver Canucks. We've got JP Williams from Texas Tech University. Andrew McIntyre, who's our hometown boy there in Tennessee Titans. And Daniel Bruslovsky and Opara Young. We've got some names that actually, the community is very familiar with. These are folks that have had a chance to sit down and be able to kind of talk about what, that matters to them as the boots on the ground. And so the content that we've been going in and pulling around that directly reflects that type of content that we have in there. So some of the stuff that we've got in the venue tech and security track, we've got conversations around wayfinding and smart navigation. We've got a conversation around smart venue and IoT devices and how to integrate those better into your world. We've got conversation around managing and driving more revenue with your digital signage and your IPTV solutions. We've got conversations around smart venue management, around advances we've started to see there. And we've got, like I said, a conversation around data centers. And then kind of the final one that it's not final, but it's one that, again, is special to me, is around accessibility and inclusion in your building. We've got conversations around how to improve your hearing systems that you have inside of your venues for those who have hearing impairments in that. So a lot of great content that we've got coming in that session. So we've got some great announcements that will be coming out for some of the people involved on that.
So on that, people in the venue tech and security, and again, you rattle off a bunch of the folk in the steering committee. I'm very happy to endorse a stack of them because a lot of them have been on the podcast, like David Jones, David Payne, Daniel Bruslovsky. They're very much people who are rolling out technology, or CTOs overseeing things, sports technologists looking at that piece. They're the people that are in those sessions having those conversations. The other thing that's important for each track is the track sponsors that are very much embedded in these conversations for venue tech and security, who is supporting SEAT 2025.
Yeah, we're happy actually to announce that we have Verizon that's coming in as our partner for the venue tech and security track. And again, Verizon's a household name, not only in the consumer side, but in the business side. And some of the conversations that we're going to be bringing with them around that are specifically around some of these, the Verizon Insights platform, and it was the smart venue and IoT devices component to that. So there are a lot of things that we can learn from market leaders in the space, which is awesome. One of the things that I always ask out of not only our partners, but our presenters, is that what we go in and present is scalable technology solutions so that when people walk away from SEAT, they have something actionable that they'll be able to use when they get back to their venue. And this is one of those as well with a partner with Verizon that from a scaling perspective, venues large and small can go in and bring these folks in and be able to apply their technology in the space, which allows them to expand or contract as they need with what the venue requirements are. So great partner in that one. And we're quite excited for that one for them to be a part of that.
And then one of the things I think one of the key growth pieces for SEAT was when it moved from just being that technology piece to who are the people using the technology and analyzing what the technology is capturing. And that's where you get the data and business and intelligence track. With all my friends that are in the data CRM space, again, you're lucky enough to have some terrific support from the steering committee setting the path and setting up the content for this track.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, from the perspective of having people that have their boots on the ground and can go in and give us relevant content to what is going to be needed for the folks, when they walk away from SEAT, has been fantastic. So we've got folks like Danny Brown from the Oklahoma City Thunder and Dan McBride from USA Golf Association and Josh Meek from Vinnick, Jake Radlett from the Texas Rangers, Kyle Burkhart from Dallas Mavericks, Matt Phillips from Nashville SC, Nick Makarov from Austin FC, Nikhil Morar from the LA Lakers, Rich Barbier from New Orleans Pelicans and Saints, Tanner Franklin from Miami Dolphins, and Laith Yassiri from the Nashville Predators. So again, you can kind of see some folks from the Nashville area that have been involved on the committee that way. But from the perspective, again, of some of the relevant sessions that we've got for the things that are important to people these days, we've got, again, you're going to kind of hear an element of AI across most of these platforms, because obviously its application can be done in pretty much every vertical. And so we're having conversations specifically around how to go in and use that technology to do what you do better. And so AI actually has a place in this conversation that way. With Teradata, they are actually the title sponsor for this track. They're bringing in a couple of their partners to talk specifically around one of the newer venues that has actually had some really cool stuff that they've done in it, and the data partnership that they have, I think will provide some great insights for folks around how they can go in and use their data that they have. And another session we have is around All-Star events. We're quite excited about that one, bringing in some of the teams and venues that have been involved in not only the NFL Super Bowl, but the NBA All-Star Game, the MLS All-Star Game, the WNBA. So we've got a lot of folks that will come in and talk about kind of these one-off events and how to use the data that you're pulling in from the greater experience with those to kind of drive some revenue and get better engagement out of your fans, and that once that event is done. So quite excited about that one.
I mean, it's very hard to pull up on your enthusiasm once you get going. But yeah, the data and business intelligence is a really good track. It is one that I occasionally sneak in on, and again, lucky enough to have a couple of podcast alumni there, that will be in the data and business intelligence. So if you are a data analyst, if you're helping analyze your tickets and season tickets and trying to drive more revenue through your data, that's definitely the track to be attending. And then the next track, again, which was part of that expansion of SEAT way back in 2012, was definitely advanced, is the digital sponsorship and ticketing track, which is close to my heart. It's one that I'm on the steering committee, and we've been really excited in what's being developed. What is new. But again, for you, what's the piece that I guess excites you around that digital sponsorship and ticketing, and I guess the people behind it forming what the content will be?
Yeah. So again, some of these folks are individuals that have helped out in the previous two events, but again, bringing their expertise and knowledge of seeing that. And one of the things that I really appreciate as well about all of the steering committee members, as well as kind of where they're coming from, is the kind of the diversity of their kind of the space that they're in. So we have GM from the Anaheim Ducks, fantastic from that perspective in seeing a few different things. Bobby Walker from San Diego State University and his ticketing background. Patrick Hooper from the Sharks. Jared Nobles from Monumental, Zach Burleson from Churchill Downs, which I feel like is an incredible introduction into a world that does something very similar to what we all expect. It's obviously sports, but has a different approach to it in certain ways because of the event around it. So we feel like that's an incredibly valuable piece to bring in. Brian Costello from Portland Timbers, Lauren Lambus from the Orlando Magic, and Lenny Go from Tradable Bits. So again, bringing folks in that have these different, kind of diverse backgrounds and diverse places where they work, I feel like is an incredibly valuable asset to us from the content perspective and some of the things that they're doing.
And then the last one, which is effectively an invention of yourself. So this is the track that was added on for Utah and for Las Vegas, and was a new track, and it was one of yours. Fan experience is what it is, but it was one to again connect those dots of the technology, the venue tech and security, really talking about the ones and zeros and getting the network right and providing the infrastructure. But this one's more about a customer experience. What does that fan experience look like? And again, I'm lucky enough to have some really talented individuals behind the scenes from a steering committee point of view and really drive what that conversation looks like.
Yeah, we actually were able to bring in Chris Freet, who was a SEAT kind of alumni from it pre-COVID, and getting him involved again, kind of with the perspective of what he brought from the collegiate space and now where he's positioned himself with WMT is incredibly valuable. We've got Renee Ciuta, who's with ASM Global Legends, and she is over customer experience for 300 plus venues and how that interacts that way. Stacey McGrainer from the San Jose Sharks is over that. Austin Reed with the Indianapolis Colts, and Kemi Testa from Guard IQ. Having all of these folks that their role is focused around what that fan experience looks like. And that comes from not only the employee perspective on creating good experiences for your employees with their technology tools, but also what that ends up being when we create kind of the perfect environment for a fan experience to be well built. And one of the reasons why I wanted to introduce this track was I felt that it was a good moment in time because we're seeing so much overlap between the tracks now that I really wanted a space where a member of the venue tech and security, a member of the data and BI, a member of the digital sponsorship and ticketing track could sit in the same room from the same organization and be able to see what a fully built fan experience looks like and help them recognize where their role fits into creating that experience. One of the things that we're trying to do with Seat is to break down those barriers that exist internally within organizations to help that communication be better so that folks, that the marketing team can have those conversations with the data and BI group, that the data and BI group can communicate to IT what their needs are so that everybody's working towards common goals versus independent departmental goals. So the fan experience really is trying to give opportunities for these cool conversations to take place and see some of the stuff that's been built out there that is really kind of amazing stuff. Some of the content that we have with that one is we actually have a session where we're going to then follow it up with a workshop around fan journey mapping. One of the things that we want to do is help people really truly understand how to interact with their fans, not only just from the perspective of, from the time that they're kind of interacting with you, buying tickets or whatever, but also as they come into your venue, for those that have different needs, what are we doing to help those people to have those needs addressed inside of their venue so that it feels like it's a part of the event and not something that's been bolted on after. We've got a session with Clemson specifically around them hosting the Savannah Bananas. Obviously, the Savannah Bananas are a very big talking point right now, specifically around fan experience. And I feel really excited about having kind of that perspective of what it's like to host that inside of your venue and what all goes into that. We've got Cosm coming back again for a second conversation with them. Now that they've got two venues kind of in their portfolio and two more that they're building, what are some of the things from a technology perspective that they walked into the building these venues that maybe wasn't what ended up being the case, and where did they find their wins and not? So some of these things are really kind of cool conversations that we'll be able to be a part of. One that I'm actually super excited for is the Houston Livestock and Rodeo. It's the largest event in North America, and over 20 days, they bring in almost 3 million participants into their event. And it's a lot like the entertainment districts that we're talking about now, where they have people that are coming in specifically for concerts who may not have an interest in a livestock show or may not be interested in a rodeo. But now they're having these interesting, ways of cross promoting and trying to build fandom from people that are coming into their space that may not be there for the one particular purpose so that they bought a ticket for. And that's one of the cool pieces of kind of how this fan experience is that these, I feel like, are problems that a lot of organizations are trying to solve. And we're hopefully bringing in some of the folks that are doing a pretty good job of this to help them kind of see what that looks like, that they could take some of these lessons learned and take it back to their own venue and apply those things.
Absolutely. I mean, you're diving in there on some of the content and some of the things that has been changed based on the feedback from attendees in Las Vegas. One of them was, and one of the changes is quality over quantity. And so it has been a challenge as a steering committee member. There are 6 dedicated sessions for each track, 6 all-in sessions for everybody. And so there's so many topics that can be tackled, but that's where I guess the steering committee has come in really handy to lock in what those 6 are and really making sure that those 6 sessions are really relevant, really current, looking really at solving problems. So those track sessions will be 45 minutes deep dive, a mix of panel and conversations on, and you've touched on some of them. And then we've got those 6 all in where we bring everyone together and try to bring that connectivity. And one of the other things that was, I guess, feedback from Seat Vegas was the value of those roundtable sessions, that they're going to be held before lunch every day. And if you've never attended Seat, a roundtable session is an open air discussion, discussing some of the issues of the day, whether it's recapping something that happened earlier in the day or discussing some of those big topics that are better done in a conversational atmosphere. I think that that changing to the structure gives those 2 days, maximum output from my point of view. And I think, but the challenge is, there's all of these things. As a steering committee member, we've really been focused on making sure that were really hitting it out of the park for each one of those sessions. You've been overseeing the agenda as it sort of locks into place Tetris style. Are you feeling comfortable in the structure that we've got for?
Yeah, you brought up the general sessions. That's actually one of the ones that I think is going to be one of the most fun pieces in that. So as we have been playing the game of Tetris on this, getting these all to fit in appropriately, some of the things that we're able to do as a part of the content with these general sessions is quite exciting from the perspective of we're trying to do things that will help inspire people, that will show people maybe a different way to do stuff. So we brought the Country Music Association in. They're actually going to be doing a general session to talk about how they go in and view data and interact with their fans and have kind of a different maybe way for us to look in the sports industry at how they do things. So that's a great one. JMA, we're actually bringing in some big hitters for their stuff. I'm not going to steal their thunder because we want to do our announcement on that one, but fantastic stuff. We've got Infotech that's going to be coming in to talk about some of the data and research that they've been doing around the sports space, specifically in that effort to try and help people, not make as many emotional decisions, but give them some science behind it as well on why they need to do things maybe differently. One of the things I feel like we've seen from what happened in COVID is gave us an actual great opportunity for us to reset as an industry and do things differently, adapt to what the landscape has changed for us. I mean, frankly, there's been teams I've talked to where it's turned out to where there's an opportunity for them to just get comfortable in how things were pre-COVID. And so bringing Infotech in and groups like that to help people see that, the industry changed. Technology is no longer the same as what it was pre-COVID, and helping us adapt with the right information is a great way for us to keep the industry moving forward, and having them come and speak around that is fantastic. Then one that I'm actually super excited about is bringing in some of the OGs and having some of these people who've been technologists in this space for 30 plus years, talk about what it looks like from the perspective of being uncomfortable with technology. And I mean that from the perspective of technology is an iterative process, and having people who've seen pre-internet to where we're at right now and show what that process looks like, as growing and making decisions that you don't know exactly what it's going to turn out like. That's the beauty of kind of technology, is when we get it right, we get a beautiful product and we have amazing fan experiences because of that. And so one of the things in the industry that's been very common is copy and paste. We wait for somebody to go out and do something and then try and copy and paste what they've done. And one of the things we're going to have to start being a little bit more uncomfortable with is not necessarily being on the front of a technology wave, but being out a little bit further than we have before, and knowing that we're being asked to do more with less, that we have typically smaller teams with fewer resources to be able to pull those things off. This is one of those things of hearing from people who've been down the path and had to go through what that is, and they've done it for 30 plus years, I think is a fantastic opportunity for us and even the new individuals that we brought up in the industry to be able to go through and see what this looks like, to be able to have that opportunity to go in and learn from these people who built the path that we're on.
Well, I'm looking forward to that because I will be moderating that event with my good friends Katie Lopoff, Steve Reese, and Todd Kafflish. And it's not only that piece of how do you see technology in the future, but also how do you lean on friends and colleagues and community, which Steve is a big part of, to help understand what that solution is. You're not on an island, and they've been terrific mentors for the industry. And so, how did they go about that? But then also, if you are coming up, how you can find a mentor, but then also how you can be a mentor in the future, because that's how I guess our industry continues to thrive. You've had a couple of other sessions which you already mentioned. The Miami Dolphins talking about their data technology journey, the Savannah Bananas. What am I doing in that fan experience space? Obviously, one that works. Look forward to, and then one that has been a big talking point in the digital space is sort of breaking some of the norms, but looking at what works in game day in 2025 and sort of what still works, what should we not stop doing. And so that's where Seek can either be that high-end theory, looking forward and what you're trying to do, but also practical things of, like you said, copy and paste. I say steal with pride. Like, I want to use that. I'm going to use that from next week or from next season. So you can get both, that strategy and that 30,000 foot view of what you should be doing and help set what you want to do. But then also there will be people with their with their boots on the ground, still doing the work, and some real useful tactical stuff that will happen in the sessions or in those follow-up sessions, or a lot of times in those round table sessions where you get to ask the question, oh, how did you do that? And it starts something that, might continue via email and phone calls very months into the future, but it gives you that spark of inspiration, as you said.
Yeah. One of the things as well is, having a lot of conversations that I do with folks from the community, from the industry. And, I have conversations with people who tell me over and over again that they've built their career from their networking and from the education pieces that came from SEAT. And specifically, I'll refer to myself in this as well. When I very first became a director of technology for the Jazz, there was an individual that I was corresponding with. He was one of the first people I interacted with on LinkedIn, and that was Todd Kaflish. And his recommendation around going to SEAT, because where I was at in time and space, there was one other pro sports franchise in Salt Lake City, which was Real Salt Lake, and they had a little bit different things that they were doing. They were an outdoor stadium. I was in an indoor arena, and most of the collegiate space, between the University of Utah, BYU, and some of those others, they weren't quite as mature in their technology at that point in time. And so I didn't have anybody locally in Salt Lake that I could really turn to. And Todd recommended that I go to SEAT and have that opportunity. And it just happened to be that the NBA league meetings were happening at the same time as SEAT, tied together in Vegas. So I got introduced that way. And a lot of the conversations I'm having with folks that, are now the CIOs for these organizations or the SVPs of technology is they talk about how they've had their time at SEAT and it was great help for them. And one of the things that I'm actually bringing up to people now is encouraging them to let the people who are below them in the organization have that opportunity as well to receive that mentorship, receive those opportunities to network with folks and really kind of give them a space for not only their own career progression, but from the perspective of learning what other folks are doing and being able to have that conversation with them one-on-one that way. I feel like that's one of the biggest strengths of SEAT, and it's where I got the value from it when I was on the team side. And again, that's what I'm hoping to get out of this, is that we give people opportunities to do what they do better and give them that opportunity to actually have a space to make those interactions better.
Absolutely. And, I can definitely put my hand up as someone that has definitely benefited from the network and the connections and the conversations I've had at SEAT. And yeah, I have the same conversations when I ask people, are you going to SEAT this year? And if they say, oh, I've got something else, or I'm not planned, or I'm in a different place they're in a very senior position and that's not what they feel. It definitely is. Well, then, take that advantage that you got and give it for your people. No, that is, can't be understated enough from my point of view. So to wrap things up, Josh, travel-wise and people coming in, I know I'll be flying into Nashville on Saturday to enjoy a little bit of Nashville hospitality. Does that seem, from your conversation with people who have registered, does that seem to be the game plan for many people coming in on the Saturday or the Sunday?
Yeah, a lot of the folks that I've been talking to, and obviously flights are different from everywhere. So a lot of folks are arriving on either that Saturday night or Sunday morning based upon, the availability of flights. And so it's actually going to be kind of fun leading up to that. Again, from Nashville, just having every capability of entertaining you in whatever aspect you're looking for. There's a lot of fun stuff to do in space while you're there. And then, for the flights out, I really do encourage anybody who can stay for that Tuesday night event to be there. Just close out the event with something that's a proper Nashville event. And then for those who are interested in sticking in town a little bit longer, we actually have a suite at the Omni for those who want to be there on the 4th of July, that the suite will actually overlook Broadway where they do their fireworks show. So we'll host just kind of a little intimate party up there for anybody who wants to stay in town and watch the fireworks. It's going to be a little bit of fun and in a place where they apparently do like the third largest fireworks show in the country for the 4th of July here. So it should be a lot of fun.
It should be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. 2025, I mean, as we're releasing this episode, parts of the agenda and parts of the sessions that we have discussed in this conversation will be released and more will be released. You can check it all out at seatconference.com or follow. If you're not following SEAT on LinkedIn, please do so. That's where you can engage with the community and also find all the announcements around the steering committee and connect with them. What you will find once you start engaging with the community, you will find, almost a 7 degrees of separation, Kevin Bacon style is what I was trying to say. For the sports industry, you will find that you do know someone that has been or is going. And as I said before, I found it too, I've really always worked in welcoming new people in, knowing the benefit that I've got from SEAT over the years. And it's always delightful to find people and talk to people, and they say, "Oh yes, someone new is coming to SEAT," and I'm very happy to welcome them and make sure they have a great experience. Because I've had one over the many years I've attended. Josh, thank you very much for coming on the podcast and keeping SEAT going. SEAT 2025, Josh's version, so year 3. I'm really looking forward to it. And head to seatconference.com to register if you have not done so, and get your bookings in at the Omni Nashville Hotel. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. Appreciate you helping me get this message out there. I'm really looking forward to see everybody again here in Nashville. It's going to be a lot of fun.